I wanted to make a homage to those 80s movies, but I wanted to make a post-apocalyptic movie for contemporary audience, which meant that, I wanted it to be action-packed, but I wanted that action to be, that high level of intensity that modern audiences expect, what I want when I see a movie. Because you compare it to something like Escape from New York now, and Escape from New York has very, very little action in it. It's all about mood and atmosphere. It's not really an action movie. Or it was for its time, but it's not now. So, I wanted to pump up the level of everything for a new generation. I do find it funny that people list off references that honestly I had no concept of. I did not deliberately make any references to 28 Days Later, but as soon as you put soldiers in gas masks in a UK setting, it's like, oh, it's 28 Days Later, obviously, because that's the only kind of previous example of anything like that they've got, so they have to use that as an example. My references in this movie specifically: Escape from New York, Mad Max, The Road Warrior, The Warriors, Excalibur, things like that. But nothing in the last 5-10 years. That's just coincidence. Oh, there were moments of doubt about that kind of, every day, whether it's actually going to work or not. It was quite interesting doing the medieval sequence. I specified that I wanted the gift shop sign up on the wall, and so I need to make sure that we're going to see that in the movie, because I need to remind the audience, because I needed to remind myself when we were filming it that we weren't making a medieval movie, because it was so authentic to us, and it was just easy to get swept away that you've got knights in armor in a castle. It's like, oh, we must be making a medieval movie. So I had to remind the audience visually that it's actually not. It's in 30 years in the future. But yeah, blending them all in together, it just seemed to me that Scotland was the ideal place for this story to take place, because it does have castles, it does have that rich medieval history, but also it has the cities as well, and it seemed that blend just worked perfectly in that environment. So, I had a lot of fun with it. But it was tricky doing the blend and making sure that it wasn't going to seem totally ridiculous. Because obviously that moment in the film where the knight first rides around the corner is, you're either going to totally lose your audience there, or hopefully they're going to go with it. And luckily most people do go with it, so... But it could be almost as if when they go into the underground facility, it's kind of like Alice going down the rabbit hole, and when she emerges and she's in medieval land, and then to leave it, she goes back down the rabbit hole and comes out in the car. So. Cape Town was it started out as a financial thing. It's vastly cheaper than shooting in the UK, but it's also much more practical. There's just the stuff that we did in Cape Town you could never ever do in Scotland or the UK or whatever. Shutting down main streets of a city, to do an action sequence there, or we had to shut down a major highway for two to 3 weeks to shoot the car chase. You could never ever do that in Scotland, or it would, if you could do it, it would just cost the earth. So that became the necessity, really. But we had to shoot at least 1 week in Scotland just for all the castle sequence, because there's no castles in South Africa, so we needed to blend the two. And luckily it was blazing sunshine in both places, so we got away with it.